my thoughts of balance. I feel like you can't achieve anything good in life if you're not obsessed.
You're going to miss the biggest opportunities that you could have had in your life. You're going to miss the biggest and most life-changing opportunities because you want to do normal people shit.
If you're doing well already, you know you can do even better. Try a webinar. We're going to teach you some of the things that she and I personally did to the right mindsets, the right behaviors. It's going to help you create some wealth. And we give you a lot of financial tools to make sure that your head's in the right place. But for those of you that are doing well already, this is not for losers. It's not for people that are okay with mediocrity. You don't need my help to be mediocre. I'll be experienced with that already. But for the few of you that are doing well already and you know you could do even better, we're going to do a special webinar just for you. For those of you that are doing well, know you can do even better, special webinar just for you to help you learn how to think, what to do, what kind of tools that you're going to need to create real prosperity in your life. Click that link. We'll see you inside.
Claudia and I are just having a chat about the importance of balance. What are some folks you hear? What do you hear me say about the importance of a balanced life?
Bullshit. Fuck balance.
I have this saying, balance is for bitches. What is your version of a balanced life? Who knows who Claudia is? Many of you met Claudia before. Who has no idea? Okay, fair enough. Claudia was, she started the 115-pound division at UFC years ago. She's the first fighter in that division, won her fight, of course. She has a habit of that. 7-time Brazilian national champion in jiu-jitsu. So best in Brazil 7 times, 3-time world champion in jiu-jitsu. Is a top contender at UFC for a decade or more.
10 years.
Yeah, 10 years. So always at the top. Fought for the title a couple times. I think I only lost to 3 people ever in many fights. And, world champion. So, yeah, I was really at the top of that sport and, beat up some of the other champions. And all-around swell person. Also a serious business person. She's gone through all the courses with us. Pretty serious about real estate. Has many rental properties, not 1 or 2, many. Not for me to talk about all her personal financial details, but she has an executive position at UFC today where she manages some things at the Performance Institute. And away from that, though, is make considerably more money from your entrepreneurial and investment endeavors than she does from her career. So, it's a person that's done a lot of tough things, and but also has interests in finance and investing and a lot of the topics that we focused on here. So, also is one of my coaches and training partners. If I'm not careful, that little arm goes around my throat. Even when I think I'm doing good for a minute, if I'm not careful, you gotta watch those little arms. She's pretty damn strong, very strong. She could pick me up. Last time we were together, if you're feeling mighty today, maybe we'll do that before we leave, but last time we were training together, she wanted to see if she could, and I was weighing like 270, and she body locks me and takes me off my feet. So she's a strong little woman, done a lot of gangster shit, and also a very smart person that's serious about investment, serious about some entrepreneurial things, and gonna make a lot of money, already made a lot of money, and gonna make a lot more money in her lifetime. Is that an okay intro?
That's a very good intro. There you go.
What do you think about balance? Did you do that because you had a very balanced life and moderation and everything?
Fuck balance. I was just talking to Derek about this because I retired from fighting almost 2 years ago. And I was like, my life was so strict. My entire life was so strict that I never ate McDonald's. I never drank in my life. I never went and, partied. And when I retired, I was like, okay, now I'm gonna go and have a balanced life. I'm gonna try to go party and drink and, eat a balanced diet and see how it works. And my life was going like this, I started not having the same results. I started losing my fitness and my mental fitness, and I just didn't feel like myself, And then it took me a little bit to understand what was going on with that. I just decided to go back to my 100% on nothing. And I was just telling Derek, I have a 10% body fat now. For a female, this is crazy. I have almost no body fat in my body, and my mind is so sharp. I'm chasing new deals to go buy a couple more houses this year. I'm looking for things to do 10 years from now, just because I feel so sharp and I'm 100% in the game again. So fuck balance. I don't want to have a balanced life. It's 100% or nothing, and I decide to go 100% every day because that's where I found results. When I was going up and down the favelas in Brazil and going to law school and training my ass off to be a top contender in the UFC, not partying, not drinking, having a mindset, a winning mindset, being physically and mentally fit, that's when I got the most results in my life. And when I retired and tried to take another route to see what was gonna happen, my career started to go down. So this is my thoughts of balance. I feel like you can't achieve anything good in life if you're not obsessed, and obsession, it's the way to keep growing, to keep evolving. And this is where I got most results in my life, when I was obsessed. So I'm back to obsessed.
We were talking about some health and fitness things. Earlier you asked me about, you said, Derek, when you were a fatty, was your brain dull and were you fatigued and lethargic as a fatty? And or something like that. I think that's what she meant by what she said. And I said, no, even when I literally had double my current body fat, and I slept 3 hours and worked my ass off all day, and if I was lucky, I slept 5 or 6 hours, and I wasn't fat because I was lazy. I was fat because the gyms were closed. And to me, if I exercise, then I'll eat better, and if I don't exercise, then I'll eat worse. And that's one of my flaws of my personality or whatnot, but that I haven't, in the past taken the trouble to fix that. So maybe I could fix it in the future, but you haven't been tested on that, so I can't say for sure yet. But I'll have that propensity to, if I'm exercising, I want to eat healthier and be healthier, and if I'm not, then a lot of things spiral. But I was still very focused. I still worked all day. I worked more. Now I'm distracted with training and eating, somewhat optimally, halfway optimally. So I was working even more. And, but there's that, it's easy from somebody on the internet to look and say, Derek, you're fat. Which I get that message 50 times a day or more, you're fat. Okay, but, my bank account got really fat during that time too. My brokerage account got really fat. My net worth got pretty obese during that time. So, it's a lot easier for me to lose 50 pounds than for the person making those IG comments to gain 50 IQ points and be able to do some of the things that I was doing. But that was my version. It's a different version. I'm not saying it's healthy. I'm not saying you should do it. But when there's a big enough opportunity, I wasn't distracted with anything else. I wouldn't care what happened. Wouldn't care if my girlfriend left, wouldn't care what happened, that I was going to focus on that thing and make sure that I nailed it. And there might be some opportunities in your life where you need to be extraordinarily focused, that you trained or prepared or anticipated for something, and that big moment has come in your life. And I don't think that's a great time for you to be worried about balance. It's well, let me sleep 8 hours first. Let me sleep 8 hours. Let me make sure, everything else is balanced. So let me go to my, college friend's wedding and niece's kid's birthday party, and you don't have time for that shit. You're gonna miss the biggest opportunities that you could have had in your life. You're gonna miss the biggest and most life-changing opportunities, and you're gonna devastate the outcomes, the gap between the outcomes that you could have had versus the outcomes that you end up with, because you wanna do normal people shit. And you just have to burn that in your head. Like, if you want to engage in normal people behaviors, then expect normal people outcomes. And if you want to have extraordinary outcomes or exceptional outcomes, you're going to have to engage in some exceptional behaviors, things that very few people are smart enough or tough enough to do. And if it was easy to do that shit, everybody would do it. If it was easy to be world champion at something, everybody would do it. It's not fucking easy. That's what makes it special. So you just have to accept that part of reality, that your friends and family are not going to support you during those times that you're doing things that they're going to perceive as extreme, extraordinary. Well, yeah, you're going to have to engage in extraordinary / abnormal / extreme behaviors if you'd like to have extraordinary, abnormally good, extremely good outcomes. And if you don't accept that, then just be poor. Just be poor. Be mediocre. Something I say to them a lot that maybe you could touch on is, like, it's the difference between, like, somebody that's on the roster versus somebody that's in the top 15 versus somebody that's lingering around the top 5 versus somebody that's a consistent champion, is those gradients in there. The way that I say that in business is like, well, if you make even if you're a very smart person and very capable in many ways, if you make like a 90% effort, you don't get 90% of the outcomes that you would have if you made 100% effort. The person that made 100% effort is, and if many other things go their way, is at the top of whatever is available. And just to make relatable numbers here, if I think many people are capable of making $10 million a year over time. If you focused on things that, in a decade or 2 or 3 from now, a lot of you could be making $10 million a year. If that's what we're going to say is 100% effort, which is not even, somebody here can do more than that. Somebody here could start a business and 5 years later or 8 years later sell the business and have hundreds of millions of dollars and do not much after that, because the damn money will make you more than $10 million a year. So you do whatever you want with your time while you make $1 million a month in passive income. So this is not a crazy thing that I'm saying. But if the bulk of the room is capable of making $10 million a year, but you make a 90% effort instead of that 100% effort, you're probably going to end up with $300,000. You're going to end up with $250,000, $300,000. And you might rationalize to yourself, well, but Derek, a normal person makes $43,000. I'm making 5 times that. I'm making 8 times that. No, you're making 3% of what you could have been if you were willing to make 100% effort for a period of time instead of a 90% effort. Do you have some version of that perhaps you've thought about in your head of, like, could you make a 90% effort and be 7-time national champion in the toughest country in the world to participate in that sport?
No, it can't. And I see this today, like working in the fighter development in the UFC. I can see the difference in behaviors and habits in the ones that are just in the roster, and I see the behaviors and habits of the ones that are the champion, the top 5 contenders. They behave way different. The effort is different. It's different. The thoughts of being with the family for birthdays and holidays is different. You see the ones that are in the roster going back home after every fight. The obsessed ones, they don't take vacations. They obsessed with the goals, right? And this is one thing that happened in my life. After I left my parents' home at 15 years old, I never went back to celebrate my mom's birthday, my dad's birthday, even my birthday. Like, I never went back home. Here I am, 34 years old, so 19 years later. And I still haven't celebrated anything with my parents, because I'm obsessed. And you see this in fighting. You see the fighters that go back home after every fight, go back home for holidays, for birthdays. You see them just being the ones in the hosters, and you see the champions obsessed with the outcomes and doing everything they can to work in the best of their abilities. And you see the champions really, really putting that work in, really putting the 100% of the effort in. And that's where you see the difference. I think it relates to business in the same way. Same way.
During that time, I gained like 50 pounds of fat, maybe more, lost some muscle, gained 50, 60 pounds of fat. Had terrible sleeping habits, unimaginably bad sleeping habits. You take a little nap and get back to reading some financial statements, and you have a lot of caffeine. Your immune system is a bit compromised from lack of sleep and a lot of caffeine. And you take a nap and get back to reading your financial statements, and you needed to have the news in the background, not because the news tells you news. The news doesn't tell you objective information, but I need to know what are the peasants thinking? What is the information being pumped out to the public? And what is the, for 100 days, more than that, for more than 4 months, they just played horror music. Like on the news, that's supposed to be objective information, they have like scary music in the background, Like that's supposed to be like an objective source of information. But that's important because you need to know like what is the kind of the fear meter? How are the people feeling? How are the people thinking? What are the other things that are going on? How's the media going to spin that? And what are the implications for the stock market and other tangential markets? And that was extraordinarily valuable. My mother died. I didn't go to her funeral. My mother died during that time in early May 2020. Didn't go to her funeral. When you looked outside, there were riots all summer. And when you looked outside, there's literally police cars are on fire outside. The buildings are on fire. Thousands of people are just looting, stealing around the city. And I'm like, it looks to me like it's a good time to buy real estate. It looks like a great time to buy real estate when the police cars are on fire just down the street. Like, is there a high demand for people to move to the city during that time? Are there a lot of people in the city that would like to leave during that time? I'm like, this is a great time to buy real estate. So I bought 9 properties since then, several of them during that time, at least 5 of them during 2020, at least 5. And my girlfriend is kind of like, she's concerned for me. She's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, I'm great. It's going to be great. But it was like a real concern, like I never heard in her voice before. Like, your mom died. There's riots. There's looting, and you're buying stuff in the area that's being looted. Spending your entire net worth on various stock endeavors, et cetera, et cetera. Build a new company, unwound a previous company, built a new company during that time. In 33 months from October 2019, remember COVID just started in March, really, or gained traction in March in 2020. So from end of October, that's November, December, January, February, was like normal times. By month 5, the whole COVID thing. But from day 1, 33 months later, we had 25 million in revenue. So 25 million collected, not payment plans, not 25 million collected in 33 months. From 0 to 25 million. So if that was a tech company, what would that valuation look like? If it was only 40x, if it was 40x, it's $1 billion. Maybe it's a few hundred million if it's a tech company. I'm not saying that it is. That's not apples to apples. That's not fair. But you get the point. So there's just a lot of things happening during that time. It's not because I was living a balanced life. That's not because it was, what I really value right now is more sleep and healthy living. It was very unhealthy. It was very unsustainable. If you live that way for a decade, you're probably going to die early. would probably take time off of your life if you continue. For sure, it would take time off of your life if you continued to live that way. Terrible food, terrible sleep deprivation, not good. No exercise. But for a period of time, that was very valuable. And during those moments in your life, that's not a moment where your friends and family are actually going to support you. When your girlfriend comes to you and says, are you okay? Partially that's concern, are you okay? And partially that's her saying, do I have to leave and find someone else? Is my man finally, I knew he was a little crazy, but did he really lose his mind now? And, is this going to turn out good? Do I need to leave and find someone else? Or is this going to be good again in the future? And I couldn't give a fuck. And I like this person I'm talking about, but I couldn't give a fuck if that's what happened. If she's not going to be supportive of me during those times, somebody else will be delighted to be supportive of me later. So I didn't change my behavior. If anything, you just double down and keep doing what you're doing and stay focused on what you're supposed to. And and I told her, I understand this is pretty intense. And if you're still here later, you're going to love the outcome. And if you're not, I understand. So don't get yourself into. Don't let people distract you during those moments. Don't get distracted by what your mommy thinks or your girlfriend or your husband or whatever it might be. You have to be very focused and all in at certain moments in life. And if you do that well, you might have exceptional outcomes. If you could do that a couple times in your whole life, it starts to turn into a lot of money. You do that, if you could do that every 7 years when you have a significant pullback, a significant market upset, and those are going to come more frequently in the future because there's less and less stability in the markets. That's going to continue for our lifetime. But when you have those opportunities, twice per decade maybe, if you can multiply your net worth, 5 or 6x, even once per decade, that's a lot of money over time. If you could do that twice per decade or even every 7 years, that's a lot of money. And if you start doing the math even for yourselves, at some point that turns into $1 billion plus. So I don't need $1 billion. It's not, I'm going to get a few hundred million. There's no way I don't get a few hundred million. But it's not like a goal of mine, I need $1 billion. I don't know what else I'm going to buy. I already have, you spend enough time with me in enough environments. I already have everything I want. What am I missing that I really want? It'd be kind of cool to have a jet, but I could struggle in business class a while longer. It'd be okay. I could buy a cheap jet, but I don't want a cheap jet. I want a global jet that you can fly around the world, nonstop. So have the inconvenience, perhaps, of stopping in Hawaii on my way to Australia or something, So think about, the factors that you want, and you can't get distracted in those big moments. So when you're in fight camp, do you want to hear anybody else's news or distraction? Was that useful to you when those moments would happen?
No. I remember I have a brother that spent 10 years in jail, and he was always in and out of jail. He would escape. You can't actually escape jail in Brazil and be okay. He would go back home, and my mom, when I was at fight camp, my mom would call me and ask me for advice and, ask me to talk to her about my brother and to talk to my brother. And I was like, don't call me. I don't have time for that shit. This is his problem. He's the one making the bad choices. He's the one deciding to do the wrong shit. He's gonna keep going to jail for the rest of his life, and I don't care. Don't call me, And I remember it got frustrated to my mother because she would call me to tell me about the problems that was going on in the house with her and my father. My father was an alcoholic also, and my brother in jail, and my mom would call me to talk to me because she thought I was the daughter that she could talk to, but I was obsessed with something else, so I always told her, don't call me. And she knew, but in the last 4 or 5 years of my career, when my sisters wanted to talk to me, and whenever I was in fight camp, my mom would tell them, don't call her. They learned to know that I didn't want to be bothered, and I didn't want any distractions in my life. I had to concentrate in beating this person in the octagon that is actually trying to take my head off. And I don't want anybody distracting me. Like, don't talk to me. Don't tell me this drama. You know, I'm making the right decisions in life so I can have good outcomes. The reason why I was able to retire my mother was because I didn't care about the bullshit that was going on in my house. Like, I told her, like, I can pay for a therapist for you to talk to, but I don't want to know. I don't want to know what's going on with my brother. I don't want to know all this drama that it's happening in the house. I want to concentrate in what I have to do to change my life and to change you guys' life, right? So, like, if I got distracted with all this drama that was happening in my family when I was fighting for the UFC, I wouldn't have spent 10 years of my life as the #1 contender in my division, right? Like, I not only created a division, but I stayed in the top for so long, waking up every day obsessed with training, dieting, technique, becoming a better person, becoming a better fighter, so I could change that pattern in my life, right? And for the ones that don't know me, I come from a small town in the northeast of Brazil, close to the Amazon area. I grew up very, very poor. Didn't even have food to eat. And my mom raised 4 kids. Three of us are doing well today, and my brother is still, in trouble. And and I'm the most successful one. I was the one that was able to retire my parents because I had that mindset, all in, 100% or nothing. Again, going back to that obsession and going back to, like, concentrating and putting all my energy into something that actually changed my life pattern, actually gave me a good life, gave my parents a good life. I'm talking about being poor and coming out of poverty in a third world country, which is different than being poor in a first world country. Like, if you see where I came from, like, you wouldn't believe where I am today, like having an executive position in the UFC, fighting for the UFC for over a decade, like being #1 contender for a decade. You wouldn't believe, but all that happened because I put everything I had into my dream and into that goal of changing my life.
I've had, it's always women. Women have told me in the past, this will be shocking to you. Women have told me in the past, you could be more sensitive. you could be more caring or whatever. And as you know, that's ridiculous, because who's more caring than Derek Moneyberg? But I think the way they meant it, they want me to say nice words to them. And sometimes I do. But there's been times where I'm so focused on the outcome, like, if there's a real problem, I'll take care of it. If there's a real problem, like, I know how to solve it, I'll fix it, there's no problem, I'll take care of it, there's no problem. But sometimes I don't say the nice words, and I'm like, so you want some fucking bum, you want just some normal fucking schmuck that says nice words but can't do shit, can't get things done? Or do you want to have a man that, maybe forgets to say the nice words but could take care of any problem? Is there a health problem? You have the best medical care, no problem. You have a safety issue, I can fix that, no problem, et cetera, et cetera. And I've been very annoyed with that at different times in my life, where I'm like, this person wants me to say nice words, but as if they would value that. I feel a little insulted by it, as if they would value, they'd value somebody who would lie to them but be totally incompetent, over someone who could fix anything, but maybe forgets to say the nice words. So I know you don't need a lot of nice words. You're a person that also, nice words that's really pleasant and sweet and everything, but it's great to get results first, yeah? You have any thought about this sort of phenomenon, or maybe you had an example of that in life? People asked you to be a little more sweet or tender at the moment?
I feel like I'm tough for a girl, right? If I'm not always saying nice words, and also I'm like, in my environment, I'm funny, I'm nice to people, I'm humanized, but in the end of the day, I'm chasing something, so I'm not trying to make people feel good all day. I'll help people, like I'll solve the problem, right? I'll solve the problem, but I don't waste a lot of energy trying to make people feel good, especially if I don't mean it, right? Like if I say something, I really mean it from the bottom of my heart. And I have people in my life that try to make me more sensitive and more loving, but I care about the results more. I spend more time concentrated in the results.